think we have plenty of it if we need to add any more.
No, it looks good. So, sound is good. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Maximum Libertarian. I am Brian. I'm joined today by Joseph Collins Jr. You're pretty new. With name recognition and things to that nature. So I was looking at your website. I watched a lot of your YouTube videos. So really what I want to do is, since you're running for the nomination from the Libertarian Party, I would like you to just tell us about yourself and why you want to be president.
Well, first, I enjoy having fun. And so I like to smile and do all those great things like that. So I want to say thank you, Brian, for having me on your show, first and foremost. And I just, when it comes to wanting to be president, is something that I have dreamed about since I was 10 years old. And I'm not happy with our country. Our country is in trouble right now. And it seems like everybody is not really listening or not really understanding the kind of trouble that we're in. We're at a huge divide. And I believe and know that I'm the guy to bring our country back together, to work across the aisle, to pass legislation that can help everybody in our country. And to me, that's like super duper important. I've been a broadcaster for years, just so people know a little bit of my background. So I've been a broadcaster for years, almost 30 years. We've put together some pretty big deals, some successful, some not successful. But I've just been really excited, and I'm excited about the Libertarian Party by and large. I think that our party represents the party that America needs right now. And I think that there's never been such a time in history where the right candidate could actually win the presidency for the Libertarian Party. And that's exciting to me, to be able to be in that position and be able to do those things. So those things are exciting to me.
Right. Now, have you always been a libertarian? Because I was looking around, I was trying to find it's. Now I don't know if Ballotpedia were you the same candidate that ran as a Republican? And then I saw one on Reddit saying you were in the Green Party. Everyone has. To me, I've met so many people that are in the Libertarian Party that came from the right, from the left, and from all over.
Great, that's a great question. I actually started many years ago as a Democrat. I actually really was a Democrat, and I served the Democratic Party here in California, and I was a part of the era when Leah Belli and Marvin Belli ran the California State Convention for the Democrats here, and I was a hardcore Democrat. I am the first African-American person of color to run for the City Council of Watts in Los Angeles as a Democrat, even though it was a nonpartisan race. But as a Democrat, I was the first one to do that. Then later, the Democrat didn't really align with my thoughts, with my feelings, and I became a conservative. I became a Republican. I think the race you're referring to is my son. My son ran as a Republican.
Okay.
Against Maxine Waters, and he did a hell of a job, and I'm so proud of my son in that race. But I pretty much have always have extreme conservative values for the most part.
What was the thing in the Democrats that made you question them? Or was there like one issue? Because I'll give you an example for myself. When I was in the service, I get out in 2006, and then I was a Republican, and then I really wasn't feeling it, but I was still, I was under the belief of third party still votes. And I'm just like, well, I'm standing in the group, but I'm looking at the foreign policy, and that was where I made the adjustment. And I was like, I don't align with these groups. And then also they talk one way and they
vote a different way.
Right.
They talk one way and they vote a different way. I think that the straw that broke the camel's back for me with the Democrats and was when Joe Biden authored the crime bill. And the crime bill gave great latitude to policing um, through America. The crime bill has done a lot of damage in urban community and urban spaces as it relates to men of color. So that crime bill was like something that I couldn't deal with. It's doggone hard enough when you are pulled over by the police and you go to court and you could be considered guilty even though you're innocent. Number one, the rough part of that is it used to be the judge could make the decision on the kind of sentencing and the punishment that you should have. And what Biden had done is Biden and Clinton, what they did was that they took the power out of the hands of the judges and they put the power in the hands of the law. And the law has never been fair, primarily for people of color. It's never been actually fair. And that's why we have to get rid of some of these laws. We've got to scale back our government so that people can live their lives the way they want to live it and do what they want to do, as long as it's inside of the confines of as long as it's inside of the confines of fairness to other people. And to me, that's the best way to do it. But when that law passed and they fought for that night and day, I could no longer support that. I just couldn't do it. It made no sense. Although people were cheering, and it's the three strikes law comes in. Yeah, the three strikes law comes in, and it's great when it doesn't affect your family, but it's bad when it affects your family. It's bad when your child is now locked up for 25 years for something that was so minor that Joe Biden put in place. That's bad. It's bad when you go to court. I don't know how it is where you are, but here in California, if you go to court for a parking ticket or a driving ticket, the judge can say you're innocent, right? They can fine you, but you still got to pay $300 to $500 or $300 to $1,000, even though you've been found innocent because of mandatory minimums. And we've got to get rid of those things, and we've got to put the law back in the hands of the judges. We've got to
right. I definitely agree with that. Like with mandatory sentencing and the three strikes, that I do think
mandatory sentencing is horrific in our country,
right?
Specifically in urban. Now, if you lay that with crooked law enforcement, you put crooked law enforcement on top of mandatory sentencing, and then you put a prison-driven system like in a lot of our educational, which is why I'm going to fix education in America. But a lot of our education, specifically in urban areas, is driven towards preschool to prison. And we have to break that cycle. We want you to go from preschool to prison, and we have to break that cycle.
Right. Other things inside, like during 2020, there was a lot of criminal justice reform changes made throughout the country. Some of the stuff was like no cash bail. Some individuals want to end qualified immunity. What would be your suggestions and ideas for that? Because if you're seeing in some cities you end no cash bail, now you're getting rampant crime, and qualified immunity. I definitely agree with you. Some cops are very bad. You got some good cops. It could bust the system because now they're going to have to start insuring the locality will have to start insuring individuals. And we're already having an issue getting law enforcement.
Who you're telling. I mean, I have some very good friends that are in law enforcement. If you've been on my website, you've seen pictures with me in law enforcement agencies and stuff like that. And I stand for strong policing. I stand for strong those kinds of things in our communities, because there are places where you just absolutely need it. There are times when a criminal is a criminal, and they should be dealt with just like criminals should be dealt with inside of the law without their civil rights being violated. And I'm 100% for that. But with that being said, you have children who are, and I'm an old guy. I just look young and handsome, but they're young men in their 20s and 30s
Uh-huh.
that are being harassed by law enforcement. And these things should never happen in America. And they're just like walking down the street. That's a violation of your civil rights. And what I plan to do is that I plan to get the best attorneys and legal minds together, and we're going to reform the crime bill. We're going to amend the crime bill. We're going to gut that crime bill out so people's freedoms and civil liberties will stand.
Right. Okay. And what about the no cash bail? What is your, or do you want to still look at case by case, or how do you feel about that?
Here's what I believe. I believe the prison system in America is corrupt, period. And I believe that we've got to get in and stop that corruption. I believe that it is wrong for us to build an economy around a prison system. It was wrong in the 50s. It was wrong in the 70s. If you remember, I don't know if you know this, but in the 70s was where there was a great spike in the prison systems in America. And that was wrong then, and it's wrong now. And we've got to stop it. We've got to get in, we've got to get under the hood, and we've got to fix that engine. And that's what we're going to do.
All right. Well, that sounds good. I mean, one of the big things like we talk about here in Virginia, I'm in Virginia.
Nice.
And a lot of us talk about is like the family has been broken up.
Woo!
So you have gun violence, you have the crime, you have drugs and all that stuff. But because you have no fathers, if you don't have a father in the house, and it's almost like it's almost like, I don't know who would be wanting to break it up. They're wanting to break this thing up so it's easier to control us, if that makes sense.
And I agree with you 100%. Let me just say this, and it may sound it may sound not racist, it may sound sexist in a way. Men have role in society. And for me as a man, I do not like the emasculation of men. I think you should live your life the way you want to live your life. But I don't like the commercialization of emasculating of men, because we as men, we know we learn from emulation. Like your father never has to say much to you, right? But you're going to pretty much emulate what your father does. And if your father's a pretty decent guy, oh, dad really loves mom. Dad kisses mom 12 times a day. So what does that mean? I'm going to kiss my wife 12 times a day. I'm going to bring my daughters up. Daughters love their dads. It's just the way it is. They want to have that protection and the covering from that point of view. And and that's important. Hey, son, give me some water. And that's important.
Right. But because I really do think that's one of the big issues that we need to focus on. Let's go into I know
the welfare system in America has been definitely responsible for a lot of the single family households. And it's time to clean that up. It's time to get dads out of jails, get dads out of prison, and get dads back in the community. And sometimes the dad in your community was not necessarily your biological dad. Sometimes your dad was the guy at church and he did these certain things, or sometimes the dad was this other thing and they did these certain things. And we've got to get back to that. We've got to get back to some basics.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, or on your website, you listed you had about 5-6 different platforms. Are them your major platforms that you're going to be healthcare, criminal justice reform, education, strong military, veterans, and job creation? Is that like the big thing that you're selling to the voter?
So the biggest thing, I would say yes. I mean, I am so into education. I think that America should be first in education around the world. I think that shouldn't even be a question. I think that teachers should be compensated fairly. I don't think that's even in a question. We should pay teachers so much money until they want to teach our children to be the best possible geniuses that they can be. And we have a lot of geniuses out there, but a lot of places, the support mechanisms are not there. You wouldn't even think that this would be happening in 2024, 2023, 2022, but we still don't have great books in a lot of urban areas. People still haven't studied some of the great writers of our time and of previous times. So those education is one of my biggest things that are so important to me. Money for businesses is the second most important thing. During COVID, we lost a lot of businesses. A lot of businesses shut down, and they have not recovered from that. So a lot of businesses that supported the economics in smaller communities, of course, if you're in a big area, well, I don't know where you are in Virginia, but if you're in a big city in Virginia, there's a lot of economic support. But say you're in a small urban area in Virginia, there's not a lot of economic support. And so we want to make entrepreneurship and getting people back to work. And my thing is, if we could spend billions of dollars around the world, we can spend billions of dollars right here at home to help Americans, period.
You know, Jesse Ventura used to always talk about that because he said we would spend so much money overseas. Why can't we give health care
to everybody?
The problem is, so let's go back to education real quick. What is your thought of school choice? Because if you look at, and I do get it, some schools get really good. Some schools, like, because I'm in Roanoke, Virginia, so I'm on the southwestern side of the state. Where we have about 100,000+ people here. So we're okay, but Northern Virginia they get a lot. They get these big taxes. You start coming down here, you're in coal mining, where it used to be coal mining and things of that nature. School choice. So would you want to do something like that to start making schools compete?
So what you have is, when I was growing up, I was considered a genius kid. Just the way it was. No disrespect to anybody. So once the school that I was in recognized that, they had all of these other types of educational choices that made sense for me. But a lot of education has to do with economic and environmental impact. So although in a lot of cases you want to send your child to the best possible school that they can go to, a lot of these, due to economic and environmental impact, they can't keep up in certain cases with the curriculum at some of these more advanced schools. If you're in a typical public school, you're not studying Nietzsche, for instance. You're not trying to learn the philosophy of some of these great thinkers of our time. And so you go to an environment where they're now dealing with Nietzsche, and I'm just throwing that off the top of my head, or they're studying Nietzsche, then you might be in such a competitive environment. I think in America's education, we need more competitive environments, period. But we've got to start it in kindergarten. We've got to start in kindergarten, making our children geniuses coming all the way up. And school choice is definitely an option that should be on the table and should look at depending on the grade level that your child actually is. What you have in most urban areas, though, is a mother or parents may want to send their child to a better school. And let's say their child is in the 10th grade, but their education is only at 7th grade level. So now if you take somebody whose education is at a 7th grade level and you put them in a place where they're already functioning at a 10th grade level, there could be a lot of discontent in that. So I'm open to the idea of the best possible things for school, but I think when you're dealing with socioeconomical issues, it becomes a really big challenge. It's just a really big challenge. I know because of myself. I'm just using myself as an example.
Right.
And
There was a study, and I wish I could remember where I had heard it, but they checked like kids when they go into kindergarten, and then
right.
and they're like, okay, people would there was a big number of they would count as geniuses, and as they went into higher grades, it kind of dwindled off because we get trained. Humans are just trained to do this, color by number thing. And instead of thinking outside the box, they're now being forced inside the box. So in turn, this genius dwindles down. That's where I always want to make sure that I do believe, and I've told people all the time, I'm a libertarian. I will throw every idea that we have on the table, and then I want everyone else to throw their ideas. And if it don't work, we got to mix it up, and that's what we go with. As people say, capitalism is the greatest form, but is there something out there maybe better that we can think of? So I will always be open-minded to anything.
I agree with you on that. I don't think that we should be closed-minded. I don't, and I've never seen a time. I never seen a time where our government is so polarized until if you're a Democrat, you don't want to work with Republicans. And if you're a Republican, you don't want to work with Democrats, or you don't want to work with independents, or you don't want to work with libertarians. It's terrible that our government has come to this right now. It's so important for us to reach across the aisle, and the guy with the best idea should be the idea that we carry forward. I helped get legislation passed 2 years ago in Indiana. We were preparing to build a facility there in Indiana, and I worked very diligently to get this particular piece of legislation passed there for film tax credits. And I didn't always have the best idea of being part of this process, but to be part of that process, to help get legislation passed that brings jobs and economy to some of these areas, to me, is the most important thing.
Right. What type of entertainment do you do? You did. We'll get off the subject of real quick. I just want to know, what type of entertainment do you do?
I take guys like Brian and turn them into strippers. No, just kidding. I just said that. I'm just having fun. Y'all don't quote me on that. I shouldn't have said that.
That's very good.
But no, really, I'm in broadcasting. I own TV stations.
Okay.
So I own a TV station in Pensacola, Florida. I have a station in Mobile, Alabama. I have a station in I have a station in Wichita, Kansas, and that's pretty much where I've been. I've been in broadcasting, and we have URBT News. So we do news. You can go to our website, urbtnews.com, or download the app. So those are things that I've been involved in every aspect of media.
That's good. I was just curious because when you were talking about the tax credits for film and things, I didn't know if you did things like that, television shows.
Yeah, definitely. TV shows, movies. I've done it all. When it comes to
now, healthcare. We'll start with Medicaid and Social Security.
Okay.
Because that's pretty much, it seems insolvent. If with everything that they're saying, 2035, it's supposed to be belly up. It seems like it's a Ponzi scheme. So I know, like, my mom's on Social Security. I know several old folks that are on. What are we going to do about this situation? Because I don't know if we can keep propping it up. It seems like it might falter.
Social Security is a very hard thing. We have to protect Social Security. A lot of people have worked hard and they put into this Social Security system, and they deserve their monies. We have to protect Social Security. We would be a horrible country to send multi-billions of dollars over to other countries and not protect Americans. I think that we have to protect Social Security, and we have to protect those that are in need of Social Security. Those things are just are just so important. With that being said, we also have to look at how can we make Social Security better? How can we make it service American people better? How can we make it work better for the American people? And those are the kinds of things that we have to take a look at. But we have to protect Social Security for as long as we can. For as long as we can. For as long as we can. I think what we have to do is figure out how to get our deficit down, because Social Security is a very small percentage of the overall deficit that America has created, which is in the $33 trillion worth of debt America is in right now. And to me, we got to get that down. We got to figure out something to bring the debt ratio down. We've got to get a balanced budget somehow. Somehow we got to be able to do it.
Right. Well, I mean, it's $34 trillion, and you know,
it went up since since yesterday.
it's up there. You know, everyone wants, because I was just looking back, and you know, when I first went to my job back in 2006, it was that, you know, I remember there was one guy, he's a hardcore Democrat, and that was all he focused on. And that was during the Bush administration. But then when Obama came in, you know, he pushed the gas pedal down even harder, and it went up more. And then when Trump came, there's no difference here. You know, that's what's driving me insane is when I see a lot of the spending and the COVID, you talked about the COVID spending, how that destroyed businesses. Had you been in charge, what would have been, is there anything that you said, because now we can armchair quarterback it, I get it, but what would have been, what's something that you would have done different, you think, that we might could have done?
I think people would have been very upset with me because what they did with COVID is they put lipstick on a pig. That's what they did with COVID. And they tried to give COVID this beautiful name. Oh, we're going to call it COVID-19. And, you know, and I was never really happy with that. And then they sold this whole vaccination thing on America. And I'm not so sure that was the right thing to do without having the correct clinical things. That I would have wanted to take a very hard look at that. I didn't like the idea of forcing people that if you don't have the shot, you can't go shopping. If you don't have the shot, if you don't have the card, you can't get food. If you don't have, I never liked that idea. I don't like anything that shuts down churches, period. I didn't like the fact that in COVID, I could go to a liquor store, but I couldn't go to church. To me, it was just something wrong with that.
Right.
And I would have done that a lot differently. Now, I would not have attacked churches, number one. I would have done it a lot differently than what I think that the administration at the time was under so much pressure to come up with an idea to do something. And then everybody just said, let's just shut it down until we can do that. I'm trying to figure out where the virus went, because all of a sudden we had the virus. I mean, just if you just work with me here, all of a sudden we had the virus.
Right.
And then 2 years later, virus is over. Let's go. I'm trying to figure out where did the virus go? You know, I mean,
right. Remember how the flu went away? The virus was up. No, now we've got the flu and we have no virus. So
exactly. So I'm trying to understand these things, and you know, at this point, I don't get the intelligence reports, so I can't really say, without having the complete intelligence reports, on the exact path I would have taken. But I can tell you, I was not happy with the path that they took. I was not happy with non-medical people telling me to wear a mask. And so if I did this, I could go into the store. But if I did this, I couldn't go into the store. It made no sense to me whatsoever.
Right. You know, one thing that bothered me was the shutdown of actually, like if you get told to take vitamins, to work out, to be healthy, that's you were shut down and silenced. I mean, we can use Joe Rogan as an example, or numerous. The tennis player, I cannot remember his name, but he was not allowed to come here and play in the tennis game. But here's one of the healthiest guys out there, and he's being told, don't talk about doing stuff it had to go through the pharmaceutical industry. And that's what I think.
I had a major problem with that. It's not that I don't trust Big Pharma, but I had a major problem with that. I mean, listen, we don't know everything.
Right.
But what I do know is my grandmother used to make this tea, and you took that tea, and a day or two later, you was up on your feet and keep working, so I do know that. So to say that Big Pharma has all the answers was 100% wrong, especially when you're dealing with something and you don't know anything about it. The thing that struck me a lot is that we don't make vitamin C in America. You mean we got to go to China to get vitamin C? Where is the American vitamin C making company? That's what we need. That was shocking to me. That was completely shocking. And that to me goes back to our manufacturing industry, which is why we have to take a look at the infrastructures in terms of manufacturing here in America. So we've got to get Americans back to work, period.
It seems like a lot of what was shocking to me was not just vitamin C, it was all of our medicine is made overseas.
Right. We're like, what? I thought we were the greatest country in the world. What?
I know. And if they were to go, okay, we're shutting them down, they don't have to go to war with us. They don't send us our medicine.
No.
And now we're SOL,
That's 100%
and in turn, that's what we got to. And I get it. You got to bring it back, or
we've got to get our stuff back in America. We've got to make America the priority. Period. We've got to look at some of our cities, and we've got to say we've got to get this thing fixed. I don't know if you know what's happening down in Chicago and what's happening with the murder rate with young people in Chicago and the murder rate in St. Louis with our young people or whatever. We've got to get this stuff back in line with what works. And right now it's not working.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like with Chicago, with New York, let's jump into immigration. I mean,
woo! You finna talk my language now.
That once again, we're using people as pawns. Now, some people are coming here for better. Some people are being baited. Like, hey, you come here, we're going to, as you saw in New York City, I believe they sent kids home so they could house the migrants. And I don't cheer Governor Abbott sending them to Chicago. If you're going to put them on a bus or put them on an airplane, you send them back home. And I don't want to, but also I understand when we'll get into our foreign policy, sometimes our foreign policy causes issues down in South Central America, over in Africa, Asia, and all that good stuff, So what do you think about the immigration thing here?
When I become the president of the United States, day one, we're going to close the borders, period. Then we've got to take a hard look at immigration. Immigration is not fair to the American people as it stands right now. Joe Biden has fumbled. Joe Biden and that administration has fumbled the immigration ball completely. It is a disaster. They've opened it up. Thank God we've been able to catch, I think, 150 terrorists or something like that have come to the country from through that border. And most people think immigration is just Mexican people coming from Mexico. That's not what's happening. People are coming from all over the world to come up through the southwestern borders to come into our country. They're not just people of Latin descent that are coming. So you got people from all over the world, and we've got to get the borders closed, and we've got to take a hard look at immigration, a very hard look. We have people who have been productive here in our country for over 20 years before this debacle that Joe Biden has created, and they still can't get immigration papers correctly. That to me is a shame. It's completely a shame. I got an endorsement from the Asian community here, which they're trying to rally their 24 million Asians across America to support my presidency campaign, and they're concerned about immigration because it has had a devastating impact on the Asian community. in terms of them getting through the immigration process correctly now. And so this is a debacle. And to put this kind of pressure on American cities and local governments, it's unfair. It's 100% unfair. And we have got to stop this stuff. We've got to stop this nonsense. You can't break into any other country in the world, but you can just walk into America. I'm still trying to comprehend that, and we've got to stop that.
It's really, I don't want to be conspiratorial, but it seems like there's something's not right.
There's definitely a fly in the buttermilk.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, even up in Canada, they were saying that there's now crossing into Canada and then they're coming over from the northern border. So people are focusing on the southern border, but they're not focusing on the northern border. So it's almost like you're under attack. And sometimes the bad thing is you're having the where we have like social safety nets. I'm not completely anti help. If you fall down, I'll help you out, but I don't want to get you into a spider web. And I think that's where we fall into it. Like, why are you going to go work if you're making more money not work? And then then that individual might have a child, and then that individual has a child, and now it's just this family. Now you're this big spider web, and you're entangled. It's hard to get out of.
Man, you said it for me. I ain't even got to say that one.
Yeah,
that is a huge immigration. We've got to get let me tell you, we've got to get under the hood of immigration, and we've got to get that sucker fixed. We've got to break out the big tools. We've got to get the big hammers. We've got to get the big guns, and we've got to fix immigration. We've got to do it, no doubt.
Right. What is I know you talked about the veterans and strong military. What would be your plans on that? Because, like I said,
now this is where by and large, we don't want to be messing with people around the world. As a libertarian, I don't want to mess with people around the world. Period. I don't want us to be involved in no nonsense wars. I don't want us to be involved in anything. I don't want America to, but at the same time, I want America that if somebody comes knocking at our door, we're ready to go. And I think that we have to have that balance. I don't want us to be a bully. I don't want us spending money around the world that we don't have to spend. I don't want us doing any of those kinds of things. But if you come knocking at this door, we want to be more than ready to do what we have to do to protect the American people. And to me, that's like so important, period. We've got to have the latest technologies. We've got to have the best weaponry that we can get around the world. We've got to have the best everything that we can get. And to me, that's the most important thing.
Right. Because I liked when Obama spoke with Iran, but then he gave them the bank. It was not a very good deal, but I would rather talk to him. And then Trump walked across the DMZ and shook Kim Jong-un's hand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I thought that was awesome because once again, I get it. He starves his people, but I would rather work with them. And then I don't want to go to war. I don't want to see Korea and South Korea go to war because we get sucked into it. Just like what's going on with Ukraine and Israel, we get sucked into it. So it's like it bothers me.
I don't want us to be at war at all. I went to the Lincoln Memorial, and when I was at the Lincoln Memorial, if you go to these places, you have no idea how many veterans have given their lives for America. It's just a huge thing to see veterans that have given their lives courageously for American democracy. But I believe in diplomacy. That's why I don't think Nikki Haley would make a great candidate. I think she should just quit, because people around the world are not going to want to do business with a Nikki Haley, period. They're just not going to want to do it. I mean, who wants to do business with somebody named Nikki? Nobody. So, she's already proven to be a quitter, you know, and God, I hope she wins the presidential nomination, because I'm going to mop the floor with her, if she were to somehow win that nomination. And so I think we've got to reach across the aisle. We've got to use diplomacy in every way. But then if diplomacy doesn't work, you know, we might have to tear some stuff up some places, you know, and that's what I think.
Yeah, well, because if you look at Taiwan, for instance, I'm not really big on arming governments, but I like citizens owning the guns. If it's good enough for the police, it's good enough for me. If it's good enough for the government, it's good enough for me. And I almost feel like in Taiwan, because a lot of people aren't going to come invade in some aspects because we've got so many guns here, where I don't know what Taiwan's issue or ideas are, but if they had, China's not going to jump in there if they're going to start getting shot. If you look in Vietnam, if you look at Afghanistan, these are people that are all that we should be. Now, yeah, we could drop the big bombs on them, but if we do that, we're destroying all the land and everything to that nature. But they had just these little guns, and they were able to defeat probably one of the the greatest power out there right now. You know,
I'm of this thing. I don't want nobody messing with my gun. It's my gun. I'm in America.
yeah.
Don't mess with my gun. You know, don't.
Absolutely. And then, like I see,
I'm entitled to that, right? As an American citizen, I'm entitled to have my gun. I don't want anybody messing with my gun, period. My gun, whatever kind of gun, is my gun. And that's it. That's all it is to it.
Now, what would you do with like an Israel or Ukraine? Because I saw in your video the Jewish community. You talked about that, how they were really receptive.
They embrace it. Listen, I think what's happening in that country is horrible. I think what Hamas has done to the Jewish people is horrible. But I don't really want America involved in that. You know, I mean, as a president, I would want to try to, you know, you guys kind of deal with that, and we're going to keep a hard eye on it and see what happens. You know, we shouldn't be involved in everybody's war. We cannot police the world. We should not be using American citizens, American children who are in the military services to police the world. And to me, I think it's horrible. I think at some point I'll be happy when this is over. You know, I think that at some point it becomes a human tragedy. At some point it becomes an absolute human tragedy on both sides. I think it's a human tragedy on the Jewish side, and I think it's a human tragedy on the Palestinian side. I think it's a human tragedy. And I think that I'm hoping that at some point some diplomacy could be taken. And if I were president, of course, I don't have the intelligence reports yet. But as soon as I start getting the intelligence reports, I can make a decision based on actual documentation.
Right. You know, one thing that's come out, I know there were several, I think New York Times, but like several years ago, here was Benjamin Netanyahu supporting Hamas because his idea was he wanted to keep them propped up. And I guess he thought he can control them easier. And then what happened is they turned around and, you know, did what they did. You know, it's a very bad situation. But that's problem where I always have, I bounce into, I go, when I was overseas, I could talk to guys from Turkey, France, Spain. We're going to get along. But then the government start pitting me against, because they use us as pawns. It's easy. Once again, it's easier to control the you and me and so forth by just spinning us up, you know.
You got to be careful in media. You know, media lies a lot of time. You know, there's a lot of fake media out there, and people tell you different things until you get a chance to sit down and talk to a person. And then once you sit down and you have a conversation, you can say, you know what, on a case-by-case person, I like this person. or I don't like this other person on a case by case basis. There are some people that I absolutely love and enjoy their company and everything. There are other people that I just don't, I don't, period. I don't like you for whatever reason. I don't know what the reason is, but there are some people that I just, I don't care too much to be in their company or whatever. And that's how that's how you have to do it. But you got to keep an open mind and be willing to talk to people and be willing to discuss and be willing to disagree on one thing, but agree on other things. That's kind of the way you have to do it, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, as long as we have dialogue, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
Even
too.
if I don't like you, or if I like you, whatever, just keep the dialogue going.
Me too. Me too.
Now let's jump over to let's do climate change real quick.
Okay.
What's your thoughts about it? Are we do? It seems like you've got two different ideas. We have oil, we have coal, we have natural gas. We never explored nuclear power for some reason. I mean, that's been flagged as something really bad, but it's the cleanest thing out there, and it makes this abundance of power. Is there something in climate change that you would like to see? Because I know a lot of younger voters would be looking at that.
First of all, I think we have to explore energy from wherever the energy is. I think we have to explore it, right? We have to take a look at what's going to be best for the American people and explore energy. While at the same time, we should be concerned about plastics. We should be concerned about plastics going into our oceans. We should be concerned about plastics going into our drainage systems. And we should be concerned about that because it's proven that nature itself now and is beginning to take on plastics, and you consume fish and these other kinds of animals, and those things are full of carcinogens and full of things that could really harm the human body. So we have to take a look at it. We have to take a look at air, and it's so simple, right? But we have to take a look at these things because it's important. Maybe it's not important in the next 5 years, but maybe it's not important in the next 20 years. Well, in the next 20 years, my grandchildren are going to be adults. And we need to take a look at ideas that can help them. I personally have no problem with nuclear. I think nuclear could be an answer in a lot of places. It's clean energy. It works. It makes sense. But at the same time, I think that we have to explore solar, and more alternative type powers so that we can get ourselves away from many of our wars are because of energy. A lot of the wars that America is involved in is because of energy. And we've got to become energy independent. We've got to cut our dependency on foreign energy, and we've got to start depending on energy in America and really making America self-sufficient, which also creates a lot of jobs. If we're really focused on how can we make America self-sufficient, and that to me would bring down gas prices. That to me would bring down the cost of energy. That could bring down a lot of different things that we're currently struggling with in America.
Right.
I don't know where you are right now. Well, in Virginia, I don't know what the cost of gas here, but up until a couple of weeks ago, diesel fuel was $6 a gallon. So that's just tremendous. That's tremendous energy going, for diesel trucks. So they got to pass that cost on. Who gets that cost? The consumer gets that cost in higher prices. Up until a couple of weeks ago, eggs here were $7 a dozen. $7 for 12 eggs. I'm like, good Lord. That's incredible. That affects your income. That affects the family household. And all of those things are energy driven. We must become energy independent.
Right. I definitely agree. See, I always worry about things like where we have to lithium because we're having. So in turn, See, as long as we don't have to see it, it's not
That's
really
right.
bad. So
That's right.
overseas, these folks are having to destroy their environment to get our lithium.
Correct.
And I definitely think I want more exploration so we can hold the power better and things of that nature. But
I don't think we've done a good job. And that's why I want to make investments in manufacturing and investments in R&D. I think that we could come up with something that may not exist today that could help us be successful over time. I don't even know what it is, but I know it's there. I can't tell you what the next battery type thing is, but I know it's got to exist because I thought about it. So because I thought about it, I know it has to happen. And so I think that we have to explore these types of things, and we've got to make those investments in energy, period. We've got to take a hard look at energy, and we've got to treat energy as if tomorrow we're going to run out of the last drop of oil.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think we should be trying to do stuff like that. So I guess we've ran up to about 50 some minutes.
Oh, I'm good. We can do another hour. It's all good with me. I'm ready, boy. I said I was going to be on the Brian show. Here I is. Let's go.
All right. We'll start talking about more things. All right. Let's see. Let's get into. I wanted to ask you about this one. And one of the big issues, it's not big yet, but reparations. That's what happens is I see once again, we talked earlier, politicians will come out and say free healthcare, free school, but they don't have a way to pay for it. And it's also, if we do pay for it, it balloons the deficit and the debt. How do we Maj Tory, do you know him? He's a libertarian up here in Philadelphia. He does Black Guns Matter, solidarity, and he does like training for the proper use of firearms.
Right.
And he talked about reparations, but in his idea is like reparation would be like if I destroy your land, if I harm you, I pay you, and then after I've paid you, it's over. How do we? I'm afraid we're going to spin up a generation or more and then you're going to get nothing, because if I give, oh great, you got reparations, but our dollar is worth nothing. What have you ever thought about that? Or
reparations is an interesting subject because I'm a Black guy, right? So
right, yeah,
obviously I'm a Black guy, so obviously
yeah, I just noticed.
So but, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Very good.
So I think reparations could take a lot of different forms.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think what people try to say is our ancestors in America did this to help build America. And as a result of us as ancestors to help build America, we don't feel like that we've been treated fairly over time. Right. Because there are these racist things that are institutionalized, and it's hard as nails to break through a lot of the institutionalized racism. And it's a shame that on Wall Street in 250 years, there's only been one Black company that's ever been on the New York Stock Exchange, period. It's a shame that in America today, there's only about 10, maybe 12 African-American companies that are on the total stock exchange. If you combine everything together, there's only 10 of us, right? We're one of them. So it's a shame that those things can happen. And a lot of that is because in urban areas, we don't have the education. We don't have the education to crack the very difficult nut of Wall Street. which is why I want to reform the Securities Exchange Commission. I want to reform the Securities Exchange Commission because we need to make Wall Street easier for people to be able to go on there without having all of these frivolous laws that make no sense whatsoever because of something that happened in 1933, 1934 Securities Act. It makes no sense whatsoever. And in that time, most African Americans and people of color were not even considering to try to even get on Wall Street. It was just an impossible thing because of the barriers. So when you talk about reparations and you think about places that happen like Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or you think about Rosewood in Florida, and you start thinking about these places where people were literally ripped out of their homes, they were burned down. Those things actually happened. And because of racism, and then those things were never paid back. Those things were never paid back to the communities that lost them. And then you can say, well, you know what? Maybe there's justification for, maybe there is justification for reparations. My take is, why not let's put the absolute best educational facility in the absolute worst area and make it available for the community in that area. And let's duplicate that across the country so that there's an educational basis. And now the education will show where the doors are open or how to put the key in the door, how to put the key in the lock. And then if we can unlock some of those doors, those things could be better for us. That's kind of how I look at it, but not just for us, but for all of us, for Asian Americans, for Latino Americans, for African Americans, for Caucasian Americans, for all of us, it could be easier.
Right.
America is supposed to be the place where you could live the American dream. But right now, where you have people hoarding the dream, like you can live the dream, but you can't. You can live the dream, but you can't. You know, these kinds of things are just, to me, overdone in our country, just well overdone.
Oh, absolutely. You know, when you were talking about taking land, I mean, just here recently over in Hawaii, once again, that was something where there was that massive fire and then there was all this talk and you're trying to decide, like, because we have so much information coming at us. Is this, or did they have their house burned down because they wanted that property? You know, the people want that because they can sell it for better, and you know, and that. But it went radio silent, just like COVID went radio silent. It just like it happens, boom, gone. You know,
I don't know what happened in Hawaii. I don't know what happened. I don't know the causes of what happened in Hawaii. I can't even begin to tell you, but I can say that I love Hawaii. I've been there a few times. I've enjoyed myself in Hawaii, and and I love the Hawaiian people, which are Americans, and we have to protect America. Period. Sometimes we have to protect America against America, because sometimes Americans, a lot of them have European thoughts, and that these thoughts are really way out there. And we have to just sometimes look at things. I can't say what happened in there. I did see lights coming down from the sky. I don't know if that's what you're making reference to. And
all I know is that there's a big fire. All the people, they're out there in the ocean.
Like that. But I can't say, I can't really say. I'm not.
But see, that's where we get into a point. That's where we get into a point where the government this could easily be, all right, just no, it's not. No one's burning anyone's houses down to take it from them. You could easily squelch it, but it's almost like they want it to be people to be talking like conspiracy, doing a conspiracy theory.
Here's what I know.
That's a lot of things. Like,
here's what I know.
Yeah.
Tulsa, Oklahoma actually happened.
Right.
I know that. Tulsa, Oklahoma happened. It was unprovoked. It was a prevarication. and a lot of people lost their lives as a result of a prevarication. These things actually happen in certain parts of our nation, and we have to be vigilant. And we have to think that America is the greatest country in the world, and we have to support our country. And this is what I believe. I believe America is the greatest country in the world, and I think that we have to support our country. And I think we have to support making America better. America is the greatest place on earth, in my opinion. And but we can make it better. There's so many things to fix here in America. We can make it better. We can make it better. Fixing education makes it better. Fixing jobs specifically makes it better. Fixing the criminal justice system here in America makes it better. And fixing some of these things makes America better. And I think that if we can get into office as libertarians, we can make it better.
Right.
And I'm the best guy to do that. I mean, period. There's nobody better. So that's what I think.
Now, would you, if you come to DC and you don't get the nomination, are you up for being vice president, or is there something else you want to do with inside the Libertarian Party? Because we got to break the two-party system. Because automatically, even if you get 1% of the vote nationally in November, or if you get 20%, you will be, if you look at how Jill Stein was treated, Gary Johnson.
I think those people did not have they didn't have, first of all, let's talk politics here for a second. Jill Stein can't win the Black community, period. You cannot be president of the United States of America if you don't win the Black community, period. It's impossible. Jill Stein did not win the Asian community either. So Jill Stein, to me, in what she did, she might be a nice lady and she might be a nice grandmother, but she doesn't have what it takes to win this particular election. And you got to have somebody that can move communities to our playing field. So I believe in DC. I'm going to prevail as the nominee. I think that it would be a smart move on the Libertarian Party to have somebody like me on that. I think we're going to move the African-American community, a mass proportion who are very disgruntled to the Libertarian Party. They don't want to be Republicans, and they're sick of being Democrats. A lot of African-Americans are very upset with the crime bill. A lot of people are sick of having their children locked up in the police brutality. Let me tell you something, and I know you probably never experienced this, but I'm going to share something with you if you give me a few more minutes.
Yeah, go for it.
What happened with George Floyd is not an anomaly in the Black community. That happens over and over and over again across this nation. And African Americans, by and large, are fed up with it. They're just sick of it. And they know that this is directly linked to the crime bill and what Joe Biden has done. They know that. They already know that. There's no doubt in anyone's mind that that's what it is. Now they need someone to articulate that on a major level, and I'm that guy to articulate that, to bring those communities in. I've already secured the Asian American endorsement. That's going to bring in maybe, this guy said they're going to put 24 million votes behind us in the general election. That's huge. There's no other nominee that could even do that right now inside of the Libertarian Party. You know, we really have what it takes to really do this. And I'm excited about the opportunity, and I'm excited to be doing it as a libertarian. I think and believe that I'm a libertarian for life. And at this point, I'm looking to win the nomination, and we're going to go on and win the White House. I think the Libertarian Party can do that this cycle.
I think you have a very good shot at it. I think, you sounded good.
Well, thank you. As long as I got your vote.
Yeah,
the Brian vote.
Yeah, well, you've already won it. So, I mean, like I said, you sound good. Like I said, I just want to have an open-minded individual, because I think a lot of times, one thing Lars Mapstead did just here a couple days ago, he did the voter bill of rights, and he's offering it to any nominee or anyone who's seeking to get the nomination for the Libertarians, and it's to make it's easier because third party independents, it's hard to get onto the ballot nationwide. And this is for not statewide or local. It's for for like the federal offices. And I think it's something you might look into. Lars Mapstead. It's a good policy, but I think we need more options.
You got to have something different right now, and the Libertarian Party is so exciting. I think more people should become libertarian. I think it's a balance. It's a balance between conservative views and liberal views, and I like it. I like it,
Well,
and having a deeper understanding of it. And I think that we're going to, with the Libertarian Party as their nominee, as their presidential nominee, we're going to win the Black community, we're going to win the Asian community, and we're going to win the Latino community, period. And I don't think that anyone else that's out there right now has even a clue on how to actually do that, to take it to the White House. What I would like to see happen in November on election night, I'd like to see there have to be 270 electoral college votes. I'd like to see us have 105 electoral college votes, at least in the early stages, and then wait to see what happens. That's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see 105 electoral college votes. I'm the only guy that can beat Donald Trump, period. There's no one else out there that could beat Donald Trump, because there's nobody else that can do what I do. And Donald Trump is more likely going to become the nominee, I believe, if he can, do that. And then we can see what happens. And so I think that my goal inside of the Libertarian Party, especially with our breadth, we're part of the National Baptist Convention. That's over 5 million African Americans in our country. We're already reaching out to other large groups of underserved communities in our country. And I think that we can run this race. My goal as the presidential nominee would be to make sure that we as libertarians run that thing and get ourselves 105 electoral college votes. And I think we can count that. And then that's going to make something interesting. We're going to be able to say what's going to happen now. That's going to really make us something exciting.
Yeah, you're definitely going to put a target on your chest if you do something like that.
Oh yeah. They're going to be like, no. I mean, I feel very strongly when we've done the map. I feel very strongly that the Democrats are going to get, 60 of the electoral college votes. I think they're going to come somewhere in that area. I think Trump is going to get the other part, and I think that I think the Libertarian Party, with me as the nominee, we're going to get 105. 110 electoral college votes, and then we're going to sit back and see how we shape up. And I think we're going to go to the White House. If there ever was a time that we can go to the White House, this is now, because America is frustrated. America is tired. America doesn't want to take any more of it. And I think this is our time.
One of the things that the libertarians, I've always said to people, I said, you need a good look. Like, we always need fashion designers, things. And I don't know if you have how the libertarians look in your area. My libertarians, they roll in, they have the T-shirt on, they don't look presidential. But you got to have Donald Trump is a showman on stage. He's a comedian, and that's what you need, to get people to pay attention to you. Larry Sharp. I love Larry Sharp. One of his statements was with Joe Jorgensen in 2020. She was a college professor, so when she speaks, she don't have to be exciting. The students had to be there. But when you go out there and speak, when he would have to speak, He had to be exciting and engaging and keep the people's attention. You know.
Well, I'm a good looking guy. I can't help myself. That come from my mama and my dad. But
yeah,
listen, this is politics, and here's the thing. We're at the right time. This is our time. This is the libertarian time. And if people can embrace that idea, we're going to win the White House this term. One thing that is for sure, and it has been proven, Donald Trump can be beat. That has been proven. And so now it's just a matter of, do we want to pull ourselves together and beat him? That's what it's going to be. The Democrats, no. But Donald Trump can be beat. And Biden needs to go. Biden needs to go on both moral and other principles. And this time, Barack Obama ain't going to be able to save him. That's not going to happen in this cycle. He's done. This is, one of the things that I'm going to share this with you. One of the things that I hear, and I've been out to a lot of African-American Black events. One of the things that I hear, oh, wow, you're going to be the first real Black president. Now, I don't know what that means, but people are saying that in my community right now. This is going to be the first. I was like, what do you mean the first? Well, his mother was, and his daddy was, his daddy was African. It's like, he's not, he's African, but you're going to be the first real Black. So, this is going to be very interesting. And so that, and I say that to say Obama's not going to be able to save Biden this time. And so we see that. We see that. That's a done deal. And so Biden's out. Biden is completely out. And and so the battle is going to be Collins against Trump. That's where the battle is going to be. And if the Libertarian parties by and large can see that, then we're going to take the Electoral College by storm.
I love the thought process, my friend. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, man. This has been so much fun, Brian. You're good, man. You're good. I love it.
Excellent. And I'm going to definitely be in contact with you because I want you to speak with my group. I'll send this out to my the Roanoke Valley Libertarian affiliate, but I'm also I want you to speak to them. So if they have any questions, you'll be able to take their questions too.
I want to tell everybody, go to my website, josephcollinsjr.com, and, take a look and see if you like what we have right there. That's really good right there. I'd love for you to, to throw a party for us. So if you go down there, we have a little page, throw a party. I'd love to come out to your party wherever you are. It's time to walk. It's time for us to walk away from the Republicans, walk away from the Democrats, and walk the libertarian walk. So you can host a party for us, please host a party, and it's going to be all good.
Excellent. Well, until next time, my friend, I will see you later. And for everyone else who watched, thank you. Please go check out his website. I think you're going to like what you see.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Brian. Thank you. God bless you.
Yep. Goodbye.